Cambridge got off to a really poor start, but they really have dug in, and there's precious little to choose between the two crews.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Catherine? I mean, how would you feel sitting in a race like that?
Oh, I'd love it. The thing is, as you said, Oxford absolutely got the best start, but haven't really capitalised on it now. I think Cambridge done a great job to hold on, and yes, it might have cost them, but I think psychologically, if they hadn't dug in then they could have lost it there and then. If you start to lose it on the bend that's against you after a bad start, you think everything goes wrong. Whereas they've had to fight. It might be expensive, but they'll gain from it.
I think Oxford are pushing away now, Hunty. I think they're just going a little bit, and Cambridge have got to hang on. I've seen in the match races coming up to the Harrods Repository, Cambridge do a big push there, and that's going to be a real key moment of the race. Are they going to come back into it at Hammersmith Bridge?
We're a mile into the boat race, just over 3 more miles for them to go. It's punishing. The pain will be etched across their faces from here on in.
Absolute pain, because you've got to go off, like Cracker said, 2,000 metre race, and it's actually a 7-kilometre race. Cambridge have had to go even more to make up that distance. Oh, they're coming close together. Look at that now, the paddles are coming down, the blades are almost interlocking, and Oxford, I think, are drawing away slightly.
Hard for me, who doesn't know rowing like you guys do, to know who's at fault there, but the umpire John Garrett will have his beady eyes and he'll be shouting.
Well, they're fighting over effectively one imaginary line of quickest water, and the bend is starting to come round in Cambridge's favour, the big Surrey bend, so they're going to want to hold Oxford out of that bend for as long as they can. But Oxford has shown in their races up to this point they have got the ability to stay the course, and they've had to work on their start. They may have taken a little bit for free, and Cambridge have had to work back into it. As Crossy said before the start, Hammersmith Bridge is where it hurts, and that's where you've got to stick it in for the next 2 or 3 minutes after Hammersmith, and not worry about the last 5 or 6 minutes, because if you get broken around this big Surrey bend, it is a long way home with your tail between your legs.
Hammersmith Bridge is now in sight for these two crew. To their right, the Oxford side, it's the Thames side, full of bars and restaurants and big crowds. Slightly less congested, the Cambridge side, but I doubt they'll be worried about who's watching at the moment. They are virtually side by side, these two crew. You can see both the cocks hollering instruction, not letting up. They still require every ounce of effort from these two, and we're not yet even at halfway.
I took a look actually at the Cambridge stroke. I don't know what you thought, Kath, there, but Niles Garrett at the Cambridge stroke, but pretty cool, relaxed. I think he's got a big push coming up. They've drawn almost level with Oxford, and pressure situation, he's keeping cool.
Absolutely, and you've got to have that understanding that whatever unfolds, whatever you are, bad start, good start, wrong bend, then you keep your head. Now they're trying to overlap the blade. They're dead level coming out of Hammersmith Bridge, and it's going to just be exciting now.
Well, they're so close together. Goodness knows what's going through the Cox's thoughts here. We can get some insight into that now, because we're just through Hammersmith Bridge, and Cambridge Cox, Ed Boson, told me earlier why he's going to be focusing so much on this part of the course.
I think the straight leading into the Hammersmith bend, the first Surrey bend, is a really key time in the race. It's where Oxford gained their big advantage last year and won from that position. So tactically, it's going to be really important that we take that first Surrey bend well.
Well, it's gone to plan for him, hasn't it, Martin?
Oh, top race. It's a fantastic race. Cambridge have pushed ahead. They've come back off that start. It's their bend now, but Oxford are going to be so difficult to crack. They'll know if they can hold Cambridge down the outside of this bend. Cambridge got about 4 or 5 feet lead. The underdogs are not as much of the underdogs as we thought. They're actually showing a really strong crew rowing well together, and this is one of the best races I've seen in recent years, John.
Nearly 8 minutes into the boat race. They're probably, James, separated by 8 foot, no more than that.
So it is close, and Cambridge, despite it being close, they know by the end of this bend they have to be ahead, because the last bend is in Oxford's favour. And what is going to trouble Cambridge, and I think concern me, is that their bow and stroke both were on the same side of the boat, so the stroke man could be putting his oar in the puzzle of the bowman, and that's not going to help them later on in the race. And Oxford has shown they can go the distance, but right now it's who put that most energy into the first 3 or 4 minutes is going to pay around this bend.
There'll be no records broken here if this approach to halfway's end to go by. They're about 20 seconds off record pace, and the stroke rate just about the same. Oxford 35, Cambridge 36.
Yeah, Cambridge know this is where they've got to make it count. Oxford know they've got to hold Cambridge. It's dead level at the moment. The blades are interlocking, but this is a top race, and Cambridge haven't quite made the advantage of their bend pay. And I think if the Oxford cock, Zoe de Toledo, is going to be telling the crew, listen lads, we're holding them, we've just got one more bit of the bend to hold them. They're on the straight coming into Chiswick now, one more bit of that advantage bend to Cambridge, and Oxford are pushing ahead now. What a top effort from the Oxford crew.
Kathy, if you're 2 or 102, you know what a race is all about. We've got one here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, right now it's anyone's guess. It's going to be how they hold their nerve, how they hold their form, and when you know you should be having an advantage, you can't take the advantage. That's very frustrating as a crew, and it's going to be how Cambridge deal with that. They'll probably want to be further ahead, considering how much they pull back after the start.
One of the widest parts of the river at the moment, but these two crew in danger of clashing once again.
You know, the umpire John Garrett's been warning crews, Oxford, Cambridge. He just every time you hear a different crew, the Coxes are really fighting, and if those blades interlock and one blade tip hits another blade tip, you know, then that could cause a disqualification or something like that, John. But it's absolutely compelling to watch this race. Never seen a race as close as this for many a year.
The umpires are not professional umpires, and they don't want to disqualify anyone. So if I was in these crews, I just would not be listening to the umpire. Just don't ignore him. You can be hated by the umpire for the rest of your life, but this is the one chance you got to win the boat race. They've got 8 or 9 minutes left to do that, and you're not going to listen to some bloke saying move left or move right. Just keep going, smack the oar out of your opposition's hand and take the best water.
But Garrett, the umpire, did say in the week he would have no compunction about disqualifying any of these crew if they were to get close. However, the reality might be very different.
Yeah, talk is cheap. He's not going to say, oh, I'm not going to disqualify them beforehand.
I've seen the boat stop there. Someone come out of the boat.
It's called
crab. Someone's come out of the boat. It's called, yeah, actually, one of the rowers it's one of the Cambridge rowers. Is that come out of the boat?
What a shame! What a shame! The boat race has.
That might be a swimmer, maybe.
The boat race has come to an end.
No, it's a swimmer.
All the Cambridge men are in.
No, it's a swimmer.
No, so it's maybe a protester.
He's going to start the race there. John Garrett is going to. He told us what was going to happen, John. He's going to start the race. It's an outside agency. John Garrett, we're seeing shots of the umpire now. There may be a swimmer. John Garrett's had to stop them for safety reasons. He will restart the race, probably with a slight lead to Oxford at that point. He's talking with Matt Pinson, the other umpire. Both crews have got their hands up. This is a sensational happening. Sensational.
And the boat race has, just to confirm, been suspended because of a swimmer in the water. At the time, 11 minutes into the boat race, the two crews were absolutely neck and neck. We've had to draw to a standstill for a moment, and in a moment the umpire John Garrett will send them on their way again for the final 6 or 7 minutes. Nothing in it when a swimmer stopped play on the Thames.
Fair play to him, because it's pretty cold in there.
Quite incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they're just getting ready for the start now. You know, both Coxes have got to go through this again, and there's no state boat start this time. They're free start, and so the Coxes are going to try and make. There's no clear alignment because the umpire's behind them. He can't tell who's in front. It's a really difficult job. This is a nightmare for the crews.
Yeah, and also if I was the Oxford Cox, they have their hand up when they're not ready. I would have my hand up all the time, because every second that they're going, they're going to drift more and more towards Oxford's bend.
He's getting them to turn round. He's getting them to turn round and actually come back so they can come to another position.
You can see the umpire used to go to Cambridge, because he clearly knows the longer it takes to restart is in Oxford's benefit. So if he can bring them back, Cambridge will have some of their bend left. At the moment, Cambridge's bend's running out, and that gives a massive favour to Oxford.
I think John Garrett's a top man. He's only because I rode with him in the Olympic. But I just wonder, John, what Kath thinks of this, because, you know, I mean, have you ever seen anything like that?
Nothing like this. And this will be something that the crews honestly will not prepared for. They'll have prepared for stopping with the clash, they'll have prepared for other things, maybe equipment failure, but actually someone else coming and swimming and being right in front of that Cambridge, well, it was the Oxford boat they were right in front of, stupid thing to do, quite frankly.
Well, unless Cambridge had someone ready to dive in if it wasn't going their way.
Are you just against Cambridge right now?
No, it's only just a theory, throwing it out there that Oxford looked like they were going to row away.
But the hardest thing is physically they'll have been absolutely their maximum, really, really starting to hurt towards the end of that race. And now they've stopped dead. You know, your body gets cold very quickly, your muscles have all changed, and you need to go back down and do an equivalent of a racing start, flat out full race. For now, it's only 6-7 minutes left.
The other thing in Oxford's head and Cambridge's head, that Oxford had the better start first time round. Now they're having another start, so Oxford gained 3 or 4 seats the first time round. Are they going to do it again?
The voice of James Cracknell, Kathy Granger, and of course Martin Cross here, watching the most dramatic of boat races that has been temporarily suspended because of a swimmer who I think looked as though he knew exactly what he was doing, has disrupted this race and brought it to a standstill.
Yeah, and we're looking at the boats paddle back, and you've got this huge flotilla of boats. You see the water, it's like a sea out there. But rowing boats aren't built to go in this sort of water, and they've got to go back. Look at the craft behind them. They're going to have to start in water that's lumpy, swelly. Their heads are going to be spinning. The experience of Zoe de Toledo, and I guess the Dutch stroke Roel Hahn will be really, Oxford will be hoping to play, because calm heads. I was involved in a race like this on the Thames, and actually the crew that cope with it best are the crew that have visualised and get in their little bubble, shut everything else out.
And that's what I was saying at the start, is that this is where Sean Bowden, the Oxford coach, comes in really useful, because he does instill a self-reliance on the crew, and this is what they're going to need now to be able to coach themselves and get themselves into situation for the restart. And if I was the Cox, I'd be saying, look, it took Cambridge 8 or 9 minutes to get back on terms with us after the start the first time round. Do it this time, and we've won this.
On the other hand, you've got Cambridge, who know they had a bad start. Now, if that was just a one-off bad start, if they can get a good start here, they suddenly are going to give Oxford the surprise.
Well, it all changes, doesn't it? We still haven't got a restart, and it's hard to know exactly when that restart's going to be able to be activated.
It is, because I think John Garrett, the umpire, he will make them paddle back up. We're looking at the shots there of sort of halfway down what we call Chiswick-Aya, and almost the Cambridge bend has just run out, but it will be making them paddle upstream back towards the start until that water flattens out, because if they're going to do a start in that race, then that's a bit of a lottery, because it's so difficult to race in. At the moment, we're all in the dark, John. We've never seen this before. It's sensational. It's front page news. It's going to be on the papers tomorrow. Never seen anything like this before. We're a bit in the dark. John Garrett, the umpire, I mean, in his worst nightmares, he could not have imagined something like this happening.
It's also dangerous for the swimmer, because there's 16 oars from the Oxford boat he was near, could clutch him on the head. Those are carbon oars, they could have done some serious damage. And I tell you, if I was in that boat, I wouldn't have stopped.
Yeah. Going back to the swimmer, to my mind's eye, I've only seen it once, but he looked as though he was watching head-on, treading water, almost watching the boats come towards him. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. I may well be wrong there, but it looked an act of sabotage to me, rather than...
Yeah, you don't accidentally swim out in front of a boat going that speed and expect it to be okay. He knew what he was doing, and he's damn lucky that they stopped, because they've trained 7 months for that one day, and John Garrett may well have called them to stop, but you would not be the first crew to stop.
Is there any possibility of that this race will be abandoned for the day today? Is that a possibility?
No, there's no possibility at all. They will race. I think John Garrett was quite clear about that. We sat in that umpire's briefing, John, and we heard John Garrett say, outside agency, the swimmer. I mean, it's amazing. He actually talked us through this scenario. They will go back up. They will start in the warm-up races, the matches they do against the clubs like Molesey, Leander, or the German under-23 squad. They actually are used to starting. Generally, they do the first piece off Putney, the start, and they start the second piece at this piece of river on a free start. What John Garrett will probably be trying to organise is, how do I see who's in front and who's behind? How do I align the crews? It's my feeling, I think, that Oxford were in front when the incident occurred, but when I saw them lining up, he had Cambridge in front, on the start before.
Well, I
he
told you, Crossy, he used to go to Cambridge. there's going to be no unbiasedness creeping in here, but Oxford will feel really aggrieved because they look to be moving better at that particular time.
Yeah, but just to even it up, Matt Pinn, who's on the umpires launch with Garrett. I mean, he's a true blue, dark blue from.
Yeah, but he's the reserve umpire. He's like a linesman. It's not the ref.
You saw the two of them talking to each other, didn't you? I mean, you know, I don't think Pinn's gonna. I mean, he's your mate, Pinn. He's not gonna let John Garrett get away with that.
I mean, just again looking as somewhat of an outsider, would anybody argue if he just lined them up dead level? I mean, even though there was some advantage conferred.
I'd argue, because Oxford were in front.
Getting used to that officially the view is that Cambridge were half a second up when the race was stopped. That's fair
so
enough.
half a second up when
I
the race
retract
was
that,
stopped.
Kathy.
I don't know, because when the race was stopped, if Oxford stopped rowing and Cambridge went up, like at the point the swimmer, it was my impression that Oxford were up, but you know, so what's he going to give? I was half a second in feet. It's like
half a second's canvas probably.
Yeah. I think
6 feet, 8 feet.
I'd back Oxford to win. It's their Middlesex bend. I mean, we are going to have a stonking race because, you know, when they come, the crowds by Barnes Bridge, the crew's going to be so close.
I think this plays into Oxford's hands because they are going to be that little bit more self-reliant, I think, because of the way Sean coaches, and they will be able to cope with this. And they got a very good six-man who's raced in the German 8, and he will have a little bit more nous about him.
And the other thing, Kath, the crews will be doing as much paddling to get some lactic acid out of their legs, won't they?
Yeah, to be honest, they're all going to have to see it now as a brand new race. It's not the second half of the boat race. It's almost a shortened boat race now, and they will effectively start level, and it's going to be more of a sprint than what they've trained for. So it has transformed things. It'll make a fascinating part two, but tough for the crews.
We hadn't quite reached the 3 mile stage of the race, had we? So how far to go from your best estimate would you say we're at now, Martin?
I would say this is going to be like a 6.5, 7 minute race, would you say, Crackers?
Well, halfway is two or three boat lengths off Chiswick at the other end of Chiswick where they're going. So they'll have less than half the race to go, but Cambridge have got very little of their bend left, and Oxford have got all of the last Middlesex bend in their favour, and Oxford will not want to paddle any further downstream. The further they go back towards Hammersmith Bridge, the more Cambridge's bend will come back into favour. But I favour Oxford. If they can use their start and then hold Cambridge off around their bend, and then they've got all the bend to come in their favour.
You're listening to BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra on the World Service and Radio Oxford. We're Thames side, and the most dramatic news to pass to you if you are just joining us is this race has been suspended. The 158th boat race suspended owing to a swimmer directly in the way of the crew, and we do believe it was a protester trying to make a point. He's certainly done that. He was right in line of the Oxford boat when the race was sensationally stopped.
You know, John, and in your sport, horse racing, my mind goes back to the 1911 Derby, was it? Emily Davison, the suffragette, threw herself under a horse as a protest. I mean, throwing yourself under the Oxford blades is as dangerous as Emily Davison doing that to a horse.
I'm impressed with your knowledge.
You know, the longer it goes on, the tougher it's going to be to start it within this window of opportunity, while he's got the tide flowing under the incoming tide, because it's going to slow down and stop. They will not row this race against the tide when it changes, so they'll have to wait till tomorrow. And you know, the longer that goes on, you know, the more likely it is that this race could go on till tomorrow. They've said the restart's going to be in a few minutes, but it doesn't look like it from here.
The tide's still ripping in now, so they've got another half hour of the tide going the right way, and even then, when it goes slack, it's like a big lake for half an hour, so it will happen. Whether it's going to be the most fair, I don't know.
It might just have to be. It might just mean we have to put up with the best of a bad job here.
I don't know if the umpire, John Garrett, is waiting for the waters